So let's talk about aphids and politics. Now, you may be asking, what the hell do aphids have to do with politics? They do have a comparison. So at times I will go outside and I will look at my garden. Well, actually, I do this every single day. Go outside, look at my garden, and I will look at the plants from a distance, 6, 7, 8 feet. And they look pretty good. The flowers are colorful, vibrant, flowing with the movements of the wind. They look very beautiful. And then one day I'll go outside and there's a little bit of discoloration on the leaves. And I think, well, what the hell is causing that? I get close to the plant and there I find aphids. And I think, oh my goodness, these aphids have been on these plants for days and I didn't even notice. Why? Because the aphids are extremely small and from a distance, it's difficult to really spot them until you begin to notice the damage, the visible damage. And then you have to work to eradicate the problem. You get your hose, you blast the aphids out, you spray them with soap water, you do things like that. In politics, there is a similar situation taking place, only you are dealing with humans, something much, much more dangerous than any insect. In politics, you see the politician from the surface. You see him at the surface level, and what you perceive of him, how you perceive him, is based on what he tells you or what she tells you. We have to be gender friendly here. What he or she tells you, that's how you perceive this person. And so the politician comes along and he says, I'm going to oppose the corruption. I'm going to drain the swamp. I am going to get rid of all of these dirty, filthy pigs that we call politicians. I'm going to purge the government of all of these corrupt people. And then you vote for this person and you end up disappointed. This person said that he was going to drain the swamp. This person said he was going to purge the government of all these corrupt politicians. It turns out that he's being funded by the same corporations who are funding the corrupt politicians. What the hell is going on? And then you realize that you didn't really see what you were dealing with at first. And you went on your perceptions, your actions, how you favored this politician was based on how you perceived this person. And it looked good on the surface, but you never really thought about the reality of how politicians trick you and how they will say pretty much anything to convince you that they are different when they are simply being very elusive. They're being very elusive and they know exactly what they need to say to get your vote. It reminds me of a story that I read today. Currently reading Yanis Varoufakis' book, Adults in the Room. And so far it has been very enlightening. You learn a lot about politics reading this book because Yanis Varoufakis, for those of you who don't know, he is a former finance minister of Greece. He was pretty deep in the whole economic crisis situation that Greece was going through and still going through. And he was the one who was pushing for the idea that Greece did not need a bailout. Greece did not need to be in debt slavery. Greece needed a way out of debt slavery. And while so many people in Greece and in Europe and in Brussels were saying that what Greece needs is more bailouts, Yanis was saying, no, we don't need more debt because it's slavery. And what Yanis was pushing for was the restructuring of Greece's debt, and he also was calling for essentially the European Central Bank to purchase Greece's debt and to purchase Greek government bonds, and Greece would then pay the European Central Bank interest and then slowly recover from debt, slowly pay off its debt. And in this whole quagmire of a situation, Yanis was dealing with all sorts of very, very sly politicians. He would meet some politician from France, and this politician would tell him, yes, Yanis, we are all with you. We completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. We must pull Greece out from debt. Greece does not need another bailout. Greece needs a way to... Greece needs to have its debt restructured. Greece needs to have its debt purchased, not to be further entrenched in slavery, in debt, which is really slavery. And then this same French politician would turn around and during the press conference, this French politician would say, Greece must basically submit to the European Commission. And so he saw a lot of things like this. He dealt with one politician by the name of Yanis Varoufakis, and Yanis Varoufakis was a pretty big figure within the European Union, and he was a control freak, and he was very disrespectful, and at one point he yelled at Yanis Varoufakis because Yanis did not want Greece to be basically under the submission of the European Union. And one thing that really concerns Yanis Varoufakis in this whole situation is if Greece is further put into debt, then Greece's economic situation is going to further deteriorate. It's not going to be mitigated. And what would eventually happen is you would have the rise of populism, and thereby you would have the rise of Greek nationalism, really the Golden Dawn, Greek neo-Nazism. This is one of the major concerns of Yanis Varoufakis, and one of the things that motivated him to really try to fix this whole problem. Well, Yanis quickly realized that one of his biggest enemies wasn't some German or Dutch politician in Brussels. One of his biggest enemies was within his own ranks. When Yanis was sworn into the position of finance minister, one of the people that was in his ranks was a Greek official by the name of George Chouliarakis. And George Chouliarakis, he was the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. Basically, he represented, or he was very close to the finance minister. And he was, according to Yanis Varoufakis, he was very unreliable. He was very late to meetings. He rarely ever answered his phone. Wasn't the most reliable person. One of the things that Yanis Varoufakis wanted was a loan extension for Greece, which would last for about 6 months, essentially allowing Greece to skip certain payments for a duration of about 6 months. In order to receive this loan extension for Greece, Yanis Varoufakis had to come up with a letter essentially requesting this loan extension. So he came up with the letter, but he was told that he was too late. He had lapsed. He was given a certain amount of days to send this letter, and he missed that time frame. And so he was very surprised by this. He said, well, I was told by Tom Weiser, who was a very, very big official within the European Union, still is a very prominent person. He said, I was told by Tom Weiser, that I could send this letter. What are you talking about? And somebody said, well, actually, you got an email from Mr. Weiser that you had a certain amount of days to send this letter. And he's like, what are you talking about? So Yanis Varoufakis realizes that someone very close to him received this letter. He received this email. It was a guy by the name of George Chouliarakis. And George Chouliarakis, he was someone who was within Yanis Varoufakis' ranks. He was within the left-wing platform, or the Syriza party, and he was also quite close to the Prime Minister of Greece at the time, Alexis Tsipras. Chouliarakis at this time was the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors, and it was his job to pretty much represent Varoufakis to a certain extent. And he was very close to the finance minister, which was the position that Varoufakis held at the time. And Chouliarakis received that email, but he never told Varoufakis. So Varoufakis confronted Chouliarakis on this, and he said, I got this email giving me the amount of days to send this letter, and you never told me about it. And Chouliarakis said, well, my inbox is so filled up, and I never saw it. And Yanis Varoufakis had him look at his inbox, and the email was there. And so Varoufakis realized that Chouliarakis was a traitor. Varoufakis went to the Prime Minister of Greece, Alexis Tsipras, and told him, I had to get rid of your guy. Tsipras was very, very depressed about this whole thing. And he said, oh, Chouliarakis, he was just a good lad. But he was very, very close to a guy by the name of Yanis Varoufakis. Yanis Varoufakis is the governor of the Bank of Greece, someone very, very close to the very powerful officials in the European Union. Now, when Yanis Varoufakis confronted Chouliarakis on his dishonesty, he said, listen, Chouliarakis, I'm going to remove you from your position. I'm actually going to promote you to really a more prominent position, but I'm just going to do it to get rid of you. And Chouliarakis said, that's fine, but if you want to get rid of me again, I'm just letting you know that I'm going to go to Mr. Stonaris. Really revealing how close he was to the financial establishment of the European Union. And he was actually very much against Yanis's plan to get Greece out of debt. He really wanted Greece to have more bailouts, which essentially was the whole agenda of the European Union. But when Tsipras, who was supposed to be very close to Yanis, who was supposed to be a partner in his aspiration to remove Greece from debt slavery, when Tsipras said, oh, he was just a good lad, and he was close to Mr. Stonaris, it really revealed to Varoufakis that Tsipras and Chouliarakis, people who were supposed to be in his team, they weren't really to be trusted. In fact, they were more a part of the swamp that they were claiming to be against. And so it really goes to show you the reality of politics, the dark reality of politics. And so when you find yourself becoming disillusioned by politics, remember the aphids. Remember the aphids that you can't really see from a distance. But when you get close to the plant, you see them. And you only realize, you only get pushed to look at the plant close enough until you see the plant damaged. And it's only then that you realize that the enemy that you couldn't see was there the whole time, right in front of you. You just had to look a little closer. Anyway, hope you guys have learned something from this message. Hope you guys have enjoyed this message. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.